What are the goals associated with the kind of world that are effectively implied by the proposed MTP for humanity? As a first attempt, the following outline maps 14 specific MTP goals interspersed with the relevant 17 SDGs within the proposed MTP for humanity framework. As with the framework, the MTP goals are also a function of a synthesis and sense-making of many ideas and proposals, of which some were highlighted and discussed earlier in this chapter. I've also included some notes for where some of the current SDGs need further consideration. Evolve a dynamic, empathic, prosperous, thriving, and self-optimizing civilization that benefits everyone in sustainable ways and in harmony with nature. By driving beneficial outcomes for all life through decentralized, adaptive, and agile economic, social, and governance systems that reward active participation and positive contributions to society and civilization, but also help to keep peace and protect humanity from any potential harm in elastic ways that respect individual freedom and privacy. MTP Goal 1. Develop a Paretotopia type of world that aims to maximize a beneficial future for as many people as possible, with many protopian elements and in harmony with nature. MTP Goal 2. Build a more local, more human city-state civilization with decentralized, community-based, and self-optimized governance, and a more elastic, dynamic, and direct democracy with social structures that have polycentric and polyarchic elements. MTP Goal 3. Re-engineer and continuously improve on designing the most positive, uplifting, and compassionate human-centric society and associated incentives that complement and extend the currently evolving workplace by rewarding active participation and positive contributions to society and civilization. MTP Goal 4. Implement a more robust, resilient, responsive, dynamically fine-tuned, and controlled form of capitalism to drive sustainable economic growth in an open-ended fashion and maximize the benefit to all stakeholders. MTP Goal 5. Promote infinite game dynamics that aims to perpetuate games in the broader sense of the word and limit rivalry wherever possible, and only have finite game dynamics and limited forms of rivalry where it makes sense to do so and where it does not have harming effects. Sdg-10. Promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. Note: in a smart technology-driven world with an increasing deployment of assisted, augmented, and autonomous intelligence applications, it will have an impact on the job market as we know it. As mentioned in MTP Goal 4, we would need to look at a redefined workplace that is complemented by a reward-driven, compassionate, and positive value creation system for society. There is also a question mark about the need for never-ending economic growth as opposed to open-ended economic growth that is more flexible. Sdg-10. Reduce inequality within and among countries. Note: although our current civilization's organization with respect to countries is likely to be part and parcel of our current world for the foreseeable future, in a highly networked city-state type of civilization, there is a reduced need for countries in its current form. Countries in a city-state civilization can, for example, have an adapted role of forming a regional or virtual grouping of city-states that interacts in mutually beneficial ways that take advantage of proximity and other common denominators. Sdg-11. Make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Sdg-16. Promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. Sdg-17. Strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. Note: this is likely easier to do in a highly collaborative and networked city-state type of civilization. And through using and democratizing knowledge, science, smart technology, and other tools in optimal human-centric ways that are based on wisdom, good values, and ethics to dynamically solve problems, create opportunities and abundance, and share benefits with everyone. MTP Goal 6. collaborate in optimal human-centric ways to use our growing knowledge base and general-purpose technologies in a wise, value-based, and ethical manner to solve humanity's most pressing problems and creating abundance for everyone. MTP Goal 7. Democratize AI and smart technology from a use and benefits perspective to help society thrive. Sdg-1. End poverty in all its forms everywhere. Sdg-2. End hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Sdg-6. Ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Sdg-7. Ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Sdg-9. Build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. And maximizing quality of life, community building, virtues and character strength development, sense-making, standard of living, well-being, and meaningful living of everyone. MTP Goal 8. Ensure that we balance population growth and decline with quality of life. MTP Goal 9. Implement better collective sense-making for all of humanity and better alignment with respect to our common goals and visions. MTP Goal 10. Build local and virtual empathic communities connected via global network with more meaningful work and relationships. MTP Goal 11. Help people live more meaningful lives through using Maslow's 8-stage motivational needs framework that includes physiological, safety, psychological, esteem, cognitive, aesthetic, self-fulfillment, and transcendence needs. MTP Goal 12. Support people through scalable, smart technology-driven approaches, complemented by human-centric, lifelong, and life-wide education services to build and continuously improve on virtues and character strengths, which includes wisdom and knowledge, courage, humanity, justice, temperance, and transcendence. Sdg-3. Ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Sdg-4. Ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Sdg-5. Achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. And with consideration of the best possible livable habitat, other living organisms, the environment, and our place in the universe. MTP Goal 13. Make Earth a truly more livable habitat for humanity and as many life forms as possible, and reduce our dependence on animal life for food and any unhealthy processed foods. MTP Goal 14. Make life multiplanetary, extract and make use of resources from beyond Earth, and explore the universe through advancing smart technology. Sdg-12. Ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. Sdg-13. Take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Sdg-14. Conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. Sdg-15. Protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. Although we must be practical and realistic given the current fragmented dynamics and powerful forces at play, we still need to start somewhere to supplement the current status quo approaches with ones that directly aim to build the beneficial future that we want. Having considered various potential beneficial outcomes for society in the previous section, it seems to make sense as a first MTP goal to select a Paretotopia type of world that aims to maximize a beneficial future for as many people as possible in harmony with nature and with many protopian elements such as AI-driven smart technology helping to drive abundance through, for example, significant reducing costs of energy, healthcare, education, transportation, and the production of food, goods, and services. Given our people are increasingly moving from rural to urban centers, which leads to cities becoming larger with greater population density, cities and their suburbs will play an even more significant role in the future as it provides opportunities for focused wealth creation via network effects, productivity, efficiency gains, and scale. Urban growth is further accelerated in a virtuous cycle by more people being attracted to the concentrated wealth creation and smart technology helping to improve living experiences. Drivers for urbanization include the increase in mechanization, automation, and innovation in agriculture and other sectors, lifestyle preferences, attitudes, the increasing concentration of wealth creation, and the specialized nature of modern workforces in the knowledge economy. The second MTP goal is focused on building a more elastic, dynamic, and direct type of democracy through a community-based city-state civilization, as also mentioned by Daniel Smachtenberger earlier in this chapter, except that they do not need to be completely anti-rivalrous, as discussed in the fifth MTP goal, that promotes infinite game dynamics with selected limited rivalry where it makes sense to do so without harming effects. What I'm advocating for here is that these city-states are also more decentralized, with social structures that have polycentric and polyarchic elements, as described by Max Borders, and also more elastic and self-optimized through human-centric AI-augmented governance systems that are transparent and explainable. The default state of affairs should be that the real-time governance is directly influenced by wishes and needs of the local communities within the city, but also one that is elastic enough to quickly move into a protective mode in order to respond in a dynamic and agile fashion to dangers and threats that could harm the citizens in the city-state. With each city-state having its own AI agents to help optimize the city, it could also be elastic in quickly responding to opportunities and possible engagements with other city-states within a highly connected network as more of them develop globally. The recommendation is to either build a new city-state civilization from scratch or select existing cities within countries to take the lead and directly transform them by starting to experiment with this type of smart city-state approach. Jeffrey West in Scale, The Universal Laws of Life, Growth, and Death in Organisms, Cities, and Companies, expresses concern about the continuous growth and the consequent ever-increasing acceleration of the pace of life, which he thinks have profound consequences for the entire planet, and in particular for cities, socio-economic life, and the process of global urbanization, and our lives on the metaphorical, accelerating socio-economic treadmill, as he describes it. He does not think that this is sustainable, that the accelerating rate of change causes severe strain on all dimensions of city life, and that we are on our way to a massive crash or a potential collapse of the entire socio-economic fabric. Jeffrey asks if we would be satisfied with some sublinear scaling and its attendant natural limiting, or no growth, stable configuration? And can we have this kind of vibrant, innovative, creative society driven by ideas and wealth creation as manifested by the best of our world cities and social organizations? Or are we destined to a planet of urban slums and the ultimate specter of devastation? We might need to get used to a more open-ended growth and define progress in a different way, which is closer to some of the proposed MTP goals that link to maximizing quality of life, community building, virtues and character strength development, sense-making, standard of living, well-being, and meaningful living of everyone. Jeffrey reckons that such an outcome would be a true significant paradigm shift. The third MTP goal ties in with this and states that we should aim to re-engineer and design a positive, uplifting, and compassionate human-centric society with incentives that rewards active participation and positive contributions to society and civilization. This should be a continuous improvement process and also complementary to the currently evolving workplace. It is particularly important that we are all clear and in agreement about the society that we want and make sure that we are as inclusive as possible when engineering this. The fourth MTP goal is focused on implementing a dynamically fine-tuned and controlled form of capitalism that are more robust, resilient, and responsive to drive sustainable economic growth in an open-ended fashion and maximize the benefit to all stakeholders. As also mentioned by Ray Dalio earlier in this chapter, capitalism is the most effective motivator of people and allocator of resources to raise people's living standards. We still want the benefits of innovation driven by capitalism, but also want to address the wealth gaps and sharing of benefits in a more equitable manner. We therefore need an adaptable and more dynamically controlled form of capitalism embedded within an elastic form of direct democracy that we can experiment with to help fix the issues with capitalism. China's state capitalism is an example of a hybrid system that seems to work well, but an authoritarian form of governance and state control is still a major concern. There are also a multitude of other ideas, such as radical markets, data as labor, the sharing economy, building out the commons, and others discussed earlier in this chapter that can be considered for experimentation. Just imagine a world where AI and other smart technology, along with knowledge and science in general, are used and democratized in such a way that maximizes the benefits to everyone. Even better, if we can assure that this is done through human-centric ways that are wise, value-based, and ethical, and used to solve humanity's most pressing problems, creating opportunities and abundance, and sharing benefits with everyone. This is what the 6th and 7th MTP goals are all about. It will also give us a better chance to solve poverty, hunger, better food security, improved nutrition, as well as our water, sanitation, and energy needs. In the next two chapters, the focus is more on specific details and ideas with respect to democratizing AI solutions to help shape a beneficial human-centric future, and sharing a proposal about decentralized super platforms with personalized AI agents that not only empower individuals and monetizes their data and services, but can also be extended to families, virtual groups, communities, cities, city-states, and beyond. Although we are on track to likely build strong AI systems, explosive runaway superintelligence systems are not necessarily a given. We should not get ahead of ourselves. Our imaginations are sometimes running wild. We should stay focused on applying general-purpose technologies wisely for our collective benefit in smart and unselfish ways. The next group of MTP goals has to do with maximizing quality of life, community building, virtues and character strength development, sense-making, standard of living, well-being, and meaningful living of everyone. These are some of the most important goals that are not explicitly addressed by the UN's SDGs except for standard of living, healthy lives, well-being, quality education, and gender equality. The 8th MTP goal is about the need to have a balance in how we grow our populations while still maximizing quality of life. Excessive population growth, like we see in certain developing countries, especially in Africa, makes it very difficult to address quality of life for these citizens in meaningful ways within reasonable time frames. On the other end of the spectrum is population decline, which hampers productivity growth and eats away at the domestic market base, which can also affect quality of life. Another major problem is collective sense-making for all of humanity and better alignment with respect to our common goals and visions, which needs to be urgently addressed, as also discussed early in this chapter and also expressed in the 9th MTP goal. Many factors contribute to the current state of humanity's collective sense-making and alignment with respect to common goals and visions, such as information overload, misinformation, fake news, social media manipulation, people not having intelligent information filters to help guide them, and vastly different and fragmented ideologies. Joshua Bach thinks there is a certain way in which people link together that produces intelligent agents such as a family, a tribe, a community, a business, or a nation. Looking at this from an intelligent systems perspective, these groupings seem to have agency, memory, and goals, even though it's not currently sentient. These intelligent agents embody information processing principles where, for example, cooperating groups with aligned interests tend to win over groups that do not. The key problem to solve is how to align these interests. Humanity has found a very interesting solution to align people that involves reputation and punishment. Joshua argues that a solution of reputation works in the long game, where people can keep track of who did what, which forces people to not play a very short game. In the short game, if you do not see people again, or there are too many people to keep track of in terms of who did what, reputation does not scale within these larger groups. He believes that humanity's solution to this alignment problem is to be less smart and give up agency to become programmable primates that stay in lockstep. There is enough evidence to point to humans in general being able to believe things without good reason, being manipulated or hypnotized into adopting policies and beliefs without reason other than convergence. He describes this ability to converge on beliefs, even when they are irrational, makes it possible for us to move in lockstep to form arbitrary functional units. Our values are a way for us to be programmed to move in lockstep. It seems like people look to serve systems that are larger than themselves, that have meaning and purpose, and that are sacred. In general, people also love others that serve the same system and find meaning in things like art, science, and religion. The hope is that with better collective sense-making and alignment, we can make smarter decisions in the best interest of humanity as a whole. I have started this chapter with different perspectives on the meaning of life and some sense-making in this regard. The 10th and 11th MTP Goals are focused on not only ensuring meaningful work and relationships within empathic communities, but also on supporting humanity's psychological, cognitive, aesthetic, self-fulfillment, and transcendence needs, as also captured by Maslow's 8-stage motivational needs framework. Given that we know how important meaning is for humans, even if we do not explicitly acknowledge that or even think about it, it makes sense to have smart goals focused on this and helping people to make the most out of life. Another important area for human development that is neglected is the 12th MTP Goal that focuses on virtues and character strength development, which includes wisdom and knowledge, courage, humanity, justice, temperance, and transcendence. In general, we can do a much better job in supporting people to become better humans through scalable, smart technology-driven approaches, complemented by human-centric, lifelong, and life-wide education services to build and continuously improve on virtues and character strengths. Just imagine a world where we have a growing number of people developing good character, having smart sense-making and alignment, and wanting to have meaningful lives and engage with one another in meaningful ways. Whilst we focus on all the mentioned MTP goals and SDGs to drive to a better civilization, the final two MTP goals, 13 and 14, are all about ensuring the best possible livable habitat here on Earth for humanity and other life forms, reducing our dependence on animal life for food and any unhealthy processed foods, being considerate of other living organisms, make life multiplanetary in line with Elon Musk's vision, extract and make use of resources from beyond Earth, and explore the universe through our advancing smart technology. In a talk by Trent McConaughey titled AI, Blockchains, and Humanity, the Next 10 Billion Years of Human Civilization, he proposes a broad holistic solution that not only addresses our threats with respect to solving climate change and AI's impact on the job market and controlling our resources, but also one that catalyzes an unrestricted expression of humanity as we explore the universe. His proposal involves a top-level design for the unrestricted expression of humanity that provides people with a better substrate that includes a body plan as well as a better spread of power that have implications for governments. The first goal is to work towards a decentralized computational substrate for humanity that keeps our dynamics, values, and patterns of intelligence, but ensure that our cognitive capacity can compete with AIs, and that we are not limited to our current biological bodies to make it possible to explore the stars. The design of the substrate goal involves connecting networks at the level of data, as with TCP/IP, and of value, as with decentralization and blockchain, on an intraplanetary and interplanetary level, where our patterns of intelligence execute on this substrate that no one owns or controls, and where we can operate on a peer level with AIs and not compete with them. Getting our patterns of intelligence on such a substrate might sound very far-fetched, and also not something that I have included on an MTP Goals level, but I think it is important to consider as part of sense-making of various responses to the threat of AI systems controlling all of humanity's resources. Trent proposes a so-called bandwidth plus approach, where the bandwidth between people and computation gets to the level of bandwidth between people through near-time market drivers, such as EEG-based brain-computer interfaces, BCI, or eye tracking, and medium-term market drivers such as perfect memory through recording everything we see and hear throughout the day and communicating in pictures and videos. As the devices are continuously delivering higher quality BCI scanning, we might be sending computation jobs outside the brain by thinking about it and getting feedback from non-brain computation and storage. Trent reckons that at some point we would not even know what is in the brain versus the non-brain part, and that most of the computation and storage would be in the non-brain part in silicon, where the brain part might become outmoded or disused. His second goal is very much in line with the MTP for humanity, and as it speaks to decentralized governance and steering clear of concentrations of power that prevents progress. He argues that controlling a decentralized substrate should not accidentally lead to autocracy or oppression, and that people will be less confined by the nation-state authorities. From a design perspective, governance of the substrate can follow a one citizen, one vote approach, without having tokens of value, and groups of people can be dynamically organized in hierarchical fashion based on bandwidth of communication and not controlled by governments or nation-states. Trent ends his talk by saying, "What do you want for the future of humanity? Let's do system design at the level of civilization. We can reconcile climate change, jobs, UBI, AI. Let us rewire the internet. Let's rewire society. Let us reaffirm our humanity in the face of AI and explore the cosmos. We need new and realistic paretotopia, protopias, and utopias. We want visionaries, lateral thinkers, city developers, futurologists, economists, technologists, industry experts, scientists, politicians, and others to also express their opinions and perspectives on what better structures and solutions could look like. Seeking alternatives is arduous, strenuous, and challenging, but it will be worth it. Each one of us has the power to steer where the smart technology era goes. If we insist on being outside of it, fearing and complaining from the sidelines, we miss our chance to shape the future."